they've had a month to hire James Borrego. They've had a week this week after losing out on Dan Hurley, I guess.
JJ Redick still on the payroll at ESPN.
With JJ Redick, a first-time head coach, we wish him all the best of luck.
One of the most controversial head coaching positions has finally been filled. The Los Angeles Lakers officially made their decision. And no, this isn't a case of another insider that happened to block me on Twitter, leveraging his platform to get one of his buddies a big contract. What am I talking about? Well, we have a lot to discuss in this video. Is this the right hire for the Los Angeles Lakers? Will this be enough for them to challenge for Western Conference supremacy? Will LeBron James finally be happy? Well, before we get to the content, we are on the grind to 1 million subscribers. Make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications to help us get there. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? It's been a very strange couple of weeks for the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, from the very beginning, we felt like JJ Redick was going to be the head coach of the Lakers. It was supposed to be this hidden secret in the NBA, but it was one of the worst kept secrets in the NBA. Every single insider claimed that the Los Angeles Lakers were going to choose JJ Redick once the finals ended. From Crispy Haynes.
Are the Lakers waiting to announce their head coach until the finals are over? Because that coach might be working the final?
Yeah, I would be very surprised if their next head coach is anybody but JJ Redick. Everything that I'm hearing is JJ Redick.
To Brian Windhorst, who typically always hits on all things to do with LeBron James.
Attempt. Maybe I'm giving away my feelings by saying attempt. There's a very strong message coming out that the Lakers are still early in their process, that there's still steps to be done, and that they're being very thorough, and there's nothing to see here, and don't worry about that.
Probably gonna have to wait till after the finals.
Probably. And then there is information out there otherwise involving JJ Redick. I will just sit here and I will tell you that my information on this is scattered. I have some people saying this is JJ Redick's job that I trust, and I have some people saying that this is a process that is not complete. I suspect I know something, but I am just going to tell you that there's multiple streams of information.
People were suggesting that JJ Redick was already putting his staff together, and even Shams came out and said that JJ Redick was the front runner to be the next Lakers head coach. Now, the comical part about this is JJ Redick even said himself that the Los Angeles Lakers job wasn't a good job the last time this job was available.
Sure, this is the time that you want to take this Lakers job. Until they start building their team like every other team in the NBA does in modern NBA, I don't think this is a good job.
And here's the thing, that makes a lot of sense because back then, Lakers still had Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James. The big three clearly doesn't work anymore. This has been evidenced by what the Phoenix Suns did to destroy their team and what the Los Angeles Clippers are currently going through. Neither of these teams made it past the first round in the Western Conference. But what's worse than believing big three still work? Well, how about a big three that just doesn't work? The Los Angeles Lakers big three of Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, and LeBron James was one of the worst big threes in NBA history. Primarily because the spacing between Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James simply didn't work. And when you're paying Russell Westbrook a supermax contract on top of LeBron James's deal and Anthony Davis's deal, and then you had one of the thinnest benches in the NBA, it's no surprise that the Lakers job was one of the worst jobs that you could have at the time. Now, a curveball was thrown at us following this report, where Adrian Wojnarowski came out of nowhere and said that the Lakers' top candidate wasn't JJ Redick, it was actually Dan Hurley, and this started a huge war. You see, the Dan Hurley news kind of came out of left field, and this is what Woj had to say about it.
Been the Lakers' target from the very beginning of this search. They have talked to other candidates, they have done their due diligence, because they aren't sure they can get Dan Hurley, but he has been their target. He continues to be their target. And now talks have some traction. Dan Hurley, they've had some preliminary contact with Hurley. They have talked, and they are going to talk more, and they're going to do so imminently.
Immediately, clips of JJ Redick talking to Dan Hurley about his offense would come out.
I think the inspiration the last 2 years, especially this year, is like watching college football now. or Shanahan from the NFL. It's actions that's just layered on top of each other, and we just try to disguise it with the formations.
And immediately, I got my hopes up as a basketball fan. I mean, the issue wasn't LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The issue was trying to create an offense that could get everybody involved in addition to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And Dan Hurley seemed more than capable of doing so. If you do this, then you wouldn't see games where Austin Reeves or D'Angelo Russell would disappear. You would see games where Rui Hachimura could potentially put up 20 points. And this is what the Los Angeles Lakers desperately needed if they wanted to be competitive in the West, not an over-dependence on Anthony Davis and LeBron James. If you take a look at this past year's NBA Finals, you would see what I'm talking about. Boston Celtics had more than just Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who was clearly the number 1 and number 2 option, but they had Drew Holiday, they had Derek White, they had Kristaps Porzingis, they had Al Horford, and there was so much versatility on the Boston Celtics. So when we originally heard that Dan Hurley was in the running, then obviously we got our hopes up. But then we found out that Woj may have been doing Dan Hurley a favor. Dan Hurley would turn down the Los Angeles Lakers' $70 million contract and opt to stay with UConn. You could also find a book called The Miracle of St. Anthony, a season with Coach Bob Hurley and basketball's most improbable dynasty by Adrian Wojnarowski. So this could have definitely been a case of Woj using his platform to try to get Hurley a huge contract. And this also started a cold war between Shams and Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj quickly backpedaled, saying that the Lakers were actually targeting James Borrego, but Shams decided to lay the smackdown on Woj on the Pat McAfee show, saying this:
the Lakers want to go hire James Borrego. They've had a month to hire James Borrego. They've had a week, this week after losing out on Dan Hurley, I guess.
And here's the crazy part. Shams is right. I mean, the reason why this is the worst kept secret in the NBA is because you don't need to be a genius to know that there's not really anyone else the Los Angeles Lakers would have waited to hire. The Phoenix Suns hired Mike Budenholzer weeks ago. If the Lakers wanted James Borrego, then they could have done it within the past month. The same could be said about Mike Conori, the assistant of the Minnesota Timberwolves. They could have done it a few weeks ago. So why else would they wait this long so they could hire their new head coach? What, do you think they're taking this long to really rack their brains and figure out who their next head coaching candidate is? No, they already made up their mind weeks ago. And it's also why Mike Breen literally spoiled who that person is during the NBA Finals.
JJ Redick still on the payroll at ESPN?
Well, we're trying to confirm that right now. So to answer your question, I say no. Like I said, I've become like, those coaches that have coaching trees. I'm the broadcaster who now has coaching trees.
And Jay Williams accidentally broke the news the morning after the NBA Finals.
And I feel like you have the Los Angeles Lakers that are trying to figure it out with JJ Redick, a first-time head coach. We wish him all the best of luck with LeBron James in his twilight years.
I wish we could get a clearer shot of Brian Windhorst's face as he says this. So according to Adrian Wojnarowski, ESPN sources, JJ Redick has agreed on a 4-year contract to become the next coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Rob Pelinka offered the job this morning, and Redick started working on a staff to surround him with experience. Now, for those of you guys wondering why JJ Redick, Pelinka became sold on Redick's ability to connect with players and his basketball IQ, and believes surrounding him with an elite coaching staff will help to shorten the learning curve in his first coaching job. That language doesn't really make me feel the most comfortable, if I'm being honest. So how do I feel about JJ Redick being the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers? It's really difficult for me to get excited about this hire, and it's nothing about JJ Redick. I mean, historically, it just seems like the same type of head coach that LeBron James prefers. An individual that is likely to be a yes man to LeBron James. An individual that I don't really expect to call out LeBron. I mean, sure, there are clips of JJ Redick calling him out during a podcast.
In the playoffs, you're allowed to be a little bit more physical. Well, as I've seen in all the other series, in our series, it felt like a regular season game, but whatever, that's beside the point.
Says the guy whose team had the greatest free throw disparity in the NBA the last 2 seasons. This guy.
But this isn't a podcast, this is coaching the Los Angeles Lakers. And I really want this to work. As a Laker fan, there's nothing more that I want to work than JJ Redick being a successful head coach. But when you take a look at previous head coaches that were former basketball players that succeeded, let's say the gold standard is Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr played under multiple legendary head coaches. He first spent time with Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls, playing underneath Phil Jackson. He would then move on to the San Antonio Spurs and played for Greg Popovich. The man had extensive experience playing for legendary head coaches. He would then retire following the 03 NBA Finals and would become a commentator. Then he would try to be the general manager of the Phoenix Suns. And then in 2014, he decided to become the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. And he pretty much combined all of those offenses into the offense that he runs now. But you compare that to JJ Redick, you get some mix of that, I suppose. I mean, he played for the Orlando Magic under Stan Van Gundy during the Dwight Howard era. He had a brief tenure with the Milwaukee Bucks. Then he played for Doc Rivers for 4 seasons with the Los Angeles Clippers. He would then move on to the Philadelphia 76ers and would play under Brett Brown, which I guess is the Greg Popovich coaching tree. He would play under multiple head coaches with the Pelicans and then eventually retire after getting traded to the Mavericks. Through it all, he would go into podcasting. He would give his opinion on the game of basketball. He's no doubt one of the most entertaining and refreshing color commentators in the NBA, but there wasn't any part of his career that really makes me optimistic about him being successful as a head coach. And I hope I'm wrong. I'm a diehard Los Angeles Laker fan, but you have to look at this situation from a macroscopic perspective. Take a step back and realize what the Lakers need to compete with this year. Next year, the OKC Thunder, who won the #1 seed, are going to return, and you best believe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be better, and that young core is going to be even better. They became a 1 seed during Chet Holmgren's rookie season, for crying out loud. Then you have the Denver Nuggets, whose only problem was the fact that they lost Bruce Brown and Jeff Green in free agency. They could easily fix that problem. So far, the Minnesota Timberwolves offseason is looking pretty good because they were able to retain Tim Connolly. The Los Angeles Clippers are a huge question mark, and if they do lose Paul George, it's going to be a bit of a sting. So maybe there's a chance that the Lakers could beat the Clippers if they lose Paul George, but if not, I still think the Clippers with Paul George, James Harden, and Kawhi Leonard are significantly better than the Lakers. The Mavericks made it to the NBA Finals. The Phoenix Suns have Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. And then there are the teams that didn't have as much success. The Pelicans are projected to trade Brandon Ingram and try to find a better fit alongside Zion Williamson, and they were only 2 games behind the Lakers this past year. You also have the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors looking to make a huge upgrade. The Houston Rockets were incredible during the end of the season this past year, and then the Memphis Grizzlies should be fully healthy, whereas the San Antonio Spurs have Victor Wembanyama and a plethora of assets. So when you tell me that JJ Redick is going to be the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, does that scream championship to me? No, it doesn't. And the thing that bums me out about this the most is I don't really see a light at the end of the tunnel. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I am a Laker fan, but I am also realistic. It's my responsibility to you guys to be realistic. You're not coming onto this channel to watch me be delusional about my favorite team, except the Luka Doncic jersey swaps into the Lakers. I love doing that. Or putting every free agent on the Lakers. I'm sorry. It makes for great thumbnails. But that aside, you gotta be realistic. Even if the Lakers got their dream scenario, trading for Trae Young or Donovan Mitchell, I don't think LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Donovan Mitchell with JJ Redick as a head coach is going to be enough for them to make it to the NBA Finals. It's an outdated formula with an unproven head coach. It would feel way too similar to what the 2021 Brooklyn Nets were. And yeah, I'm sure you could say that injuries held that team back, but if Steve Nash wasn't a successful head coach, I'm having trouble seeing JJ Redick being a successful head coach. But I hope I'm wrong. I really want to be wrong. I want JJ Redick to be the next coming of Steve Kerr. I want him to be the greatest head coach in Laker history. It's just, I guess I don't have a lot of faith in the Los Angeles Lakers recently, primarily because of how they managed the LeBron James era. They wasted a lot of years, whether that's LeBron's fault trading for Russell Westbrook or the Lakers is a different conversation. They also took way too long to trade for Anthony Davis. They won a championship and then dismantled the championship team. They fired Frank Vogel after a 57-day offseason where his players got injured and lost to the Phoenix Suns in the first round for an arguably worse head coach. I mean, it's really hard to be optimistic about my Lakers, but I hope I'm wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below. Did the Lakers make the right decision? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.